Welcome back. Today we turn our attention to an important conversation around history, memory and healing. The Department of Applied Educational Sciences in the School of Education at the University of Namibia hosted a seminar today examining the historical, cultural and emotional significance of Ovaherero and Nama ancestral remains that were taken to Europe during the 1904 to 1908 genocide period. Now, the discussions explore themes of repatriation, dignity, historical accountability, and what the return of ancestral human remains means for affected communities today, while also reflecting on Namibia's engagement with countries such as Germany and France on colonial memory and culturally appropriate repatriation processes. Joining us for this important conversation is Dr. Elise Pape, an international scholar and sociologist from Paris, as well as Professor Cynthia Haihambo-Yaoto, Associate Professor of Education, Psychology and Inclusive Education at UNAM. Professor, Doctor, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Well, just to start with, Dr. Pape, perhaps you can just briefly, explain to us the significance of the Ovaherero and Nama ancestral remains that were taken to Europe during that genocide period.
Yes, so you can see a double significance if you speak to Ovaherero or Nama families or go to the Swapokmund Genocide Museum. You will hear many stories about the absence, the lack of the ancestral remains. And on the other side, in European institutions, there are thousands of ancestral remains from different countries in the world. Some of them also from African countries, many of them also from African countries, and that were used in physical anthropology for racial and racist research. And we don't know oftentimes exactly who the persons were behind these ancestral remains. So you really have this double significance between the lack here of the human remains and the lack of knowledge in Europe, in the institutions, on who are the persons behind the human remains.
Professor, when we speak on this subject of the repatriation of these remains during, that or from that genocide period, it's more than just, simply returning these remains to where we believe they belong. How does it connect to, dignity, to healing, to historical justice of these affected communities?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's really a question of belonging. When you are a part of me and you are taken away, far away, we feel that we are missing someone that belongs to us. And we have cultural ways of conducting our funerals and of parting with those that belong to us or that are part of us. And if they are somewhere stored in a museum, it's definitely a question of when will we ever find closure? Yeah. So I think it's more about belonging and that lack of closure. And when there is no closure, there's also delayed healing.
Of course, yeah. Dr. Pape, from your research that you've done, surrounding this subject matter, what emotional and cultural impact has the absence of these ancestral remains had on, generations from the Ovaherero and the Nama communities?
Well, really, in the genealogical tree, really all those absences and lack of proper burial. I've even encountered families who buy farms because they want to get back the land where the ancestors before the genocide were buried, in order for them to have access to ancestors who were buried in a dignified way.
Would you like to add on to that, Professor?
Yes, I think mostly when people are separated and there's this whole history around their separation, especially when you look at the genocide history, you really see how people struggled and moved from one point to another and they were starved and so on and so on. It hangs over the family, over the community, over the country, that horror feeling. And when restitution is not happening, then there's no healing, and people just feel lost, so to say. Yeah. So the significance is really lies into that connectedness that needs to be restored.
Dr. Pape, talk to us about what you shared today, during this seminar.
So today I presented a very specific case that concerns the University of Strasbourg, that is in Alsace, in a region in France that borders with Germany, and that actually was German several times throughout its history, notably after 1871, after the Franco-Prussian War. And the University of Strasbourg at the time became German until the end of World War I. And during this time, which also was the time of German colonialism, about 150 ancestral remains from different former German colonies in Africa entered the Institute of Anatomy of the University of Strasbourg. So there's a very specific Franco-German legacy at the University of Strasbourg concerning ancestral remains from former colonies. And so today, I presented on the one side the history of this context, and a research project that I'm responsible of, and that we work closely together with Professor Haihambo Yaoto, where we really explore the contemporary meanings of ancestral remains today. In Namibia, but also in France, in Tanzania, Togo, and Cameroon.
In your view, what is meaningful historical accountability from former colonial powers look like today, Dr. Pape? And if you don't have an example, what should it look like today?
From state or from institutions, or both?
From both.
From both. A meaningful accountability. Well, I think first of all, engage a dialogue. I think that's for me the first step is really to listen well to the other side, not impose your own view, this can be done on the state level and also on specific institutional levels like museums, universities, meaning establish programs, exchange programs for scholars, for students, also very much in the university context, and really go beyond just that. That's simple. It's not simple, but the simple restitution. Don't just give back, but also really engage into a dialogue in order for both sides to understand each other better.
Professor Haihambo, you agree with those sentiments?
Yeah, definitely. Because when you engage young people, for example, you get to understand that they have these piecemeals of history that they gained from previous generations, their grandmothers. A lot of the students that were in the room today told us that they heard about the genocide from their grandmothers and how it was passed on to them. And we could clearly see the wounds. So we think that institutions really need to come together and speak with the same voice in order to demand justice that is that belongs to them. And the young people also, we could see that they're transforming from just hearing about the history to taking on a more agency and advocacy role. And that actually makes us happy, because we know that even when the current generation is no longer there, the young people will take it further.
Yeah. Dr. Pape mentioned, and I hope I quote you correctly, a contemporary sort of discussion around the subject matter. What does that mean? Because history is history, and why, especially a subject as that's heavy, for lack of a better word, such as this, why modernize it, Professor Haihambo?
History is history, but history impact today. So when you talk about history, you're talking about a whole combination of subjects like sociology, psychology, and in this case especially we're dealing with generational trauma. So what happened in the history has an impact of how people, what happens to people today and how they feel. So it's important that we keep that relationship between yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges that countries and institutions perhaps face when trying to ensure, Dr. Ayambo, Professor Ayambo, the repatriation processes are handled in a culturally respectful and appropriate manner.
Yes, that issue also came up strongly today, that government to government, there's an agreement kind of, or a preference from especially Germany, that it is better that this issue of the genocide is taken from a government to government perspective. And somehow communities feel, why should Germany prescribe to us as to whom to talk to? Because government is the mother, but then communities are the children.
Yeah.
Why do we want to silence the children in order to listen to the mother or the father for gender parity's sake? So it is the way negotiations should be handled, and the voices that should be involved in making sure that our message gets across and that we get the reparation and the restoration that we so desire.
Yeah. Well, we know that next week will be Genocide Remembrance Day here in Namibia, and this is the second year that we're actually commemorating the day. So conversations around, this topic of discussion will be happening throughout the week leading up to next week. But I want to know from both you ladies, what role seminars such as the ones that you hosted today, and, public discussions, play in educating younger generations, and also, preserving that historical memory. Professor, you can go first.
Seminars and discussion fora, etc., the first thing they do is they provide information. And in our case, we mostly deal with qualitative research, and it's information that comes from that qualitative research that is shared. And you can see that people are starting to put the patchwork together. So it leads to people understanding the issue at a more, not necessarily scientific, but when they hear it through folklore, for example, and stories told by grandmother, they are now able to put the patches together and to understand, where did we come from? Why did this happen? And what came out strongly today was also the fact that the young people saying that having this information is empowering. It empowers them, and we believe that if it empowers them, they will be able to say, this should not happen again.
Yeah.
And they will also be part of those demanding then the repatriation and the restitution, etc.
Fantastic. Dr. Pape, from you?
Yes, well, I think we should have something similar in Europe, actually. I think we should have a Remembrance Day on the colonial past of Europe. I think this would be very important to sensitize students more, to give them more knowledge, more information, as you say. And maybe there could also be more exchange between students and young people, and overall different organizations between African countries and European countries exactly on that matter. Also through video conferencing, that makes it now easier to really communicate. And I think something similar, a similar Remembrance Day should be introduced in Europe.
Well, Professor Ayambo, Dr. Pape, thank you so much for being here. I know that you had a busy morning, afternoon, so we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
When we come back after this very